That was great music. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Ignite. My name is Hector Garcia Tellado, and I'm the General Manager of the Dynamics 365 frontline applications here at Microsoft. That includes field service, resource scheduling, mixed reality, and all our frontline Copilot investments. I am super excited to be here at Ignite. Hopefully you're having a great day, and you've got to learn a lot of the different announcements this morning from the keynote and other sessions. Today, this session, we're going to dive into everything around frontline operations, field service operations, and what are we doing in terms of generative AI and Dynamics 365. We have 3 goals for today. The first one is we want to give you a glimpse into how we see our mission and vision in the future of frontline operations. We've gathered also a lot of our great research data on what frontline workers are saying about this AI transformation that we wanted to share with you so you can understand how informed our mission is. Our second goal is to highlight a certain new capabilities that we've recently announced and then we're also announcing today here at Ignite and do an awesome end-to-end demo that shows the value of Copilot from dispatching, manager, technician. It's going to be great. And the third goal is to actually hear from a real customer, Siemens Smart Infrastructure, how has their journey been with Dynamics Field Service and Dynamics Service in general, and also how's their onboarding into Copilot and jumping in this new adventure of digitally transforming themselves for the second time after going to a cloud transformation. So as you can see, packed agenda, so let's just do it. I really wanted to start this presentation today with a sign of optimism, right? Historically, those of you who have been involved in field service and frontline for a while, you know that frontline workers have been traditionally underserved. For digital transformation, even the CRM space started in CRM, mostly focusing on sales, customer service representatives, marketing, finance, et cetera. And usually, field service transformation has lagged a little bit behind. But with generative AI, we actually have a massive opportunity, and frontline workers are actually extremely excited about it. In our latest research, 65% of the frontline worker population are really excited about the possibilities of Gen AI. This is probably the most positive around the AI change in the population we see. And as you know, there's more than 2 billion frontline workers out there. Why do you think that is? Well, the key is the following. Usually, especially in the case of highly skilled technicians, et cetera, their problem is not really being replaced by AI. Their problem is like they need all the help they can get to be able to serve better to their customers, do their job most efficiently, being able to parse through all this pen and paper data and focus more attention on the business versus having to do menial tasks. And that's why many of them are really, really excited about this transformation. At Microsoft, when we think about the frontline transformation, we actually think about the holistic life cycle. So from the moment that work gets created, it could create a work order from a case escalation. It could be from a portal, a customer reaching through omnichannel or a portal. It can be a fellow technician passing the work order to somebody. To the scheduling, it could be manual scheduling, assisted scheduling, fully automated scheduling, back into the performance of the work order. Right, whether it's like you're doing an inspection, QA, fixing an asset, what have you. And what's really exciting about the AI evolution is that now all this life cycle is really surrounded by Copilot, Gen AI, and agents. And we're about to show you today how that happens. So you've heard us talk probably more than you'd like in some cases on how the AI is shifting, transforming how we work. But I really wanted to double click today on how are we doing it in the context of frontline. So we have 3 key elements in this shift: the worker, Copilot, and the agents. And there are 3 key evolutions that are going to become extremely important in the way we build software for the frontline in the future. The first shift is moving from traditional forms over data, long mobile applications, competing these things, et cetera, into Copilot being the UI. But when we mean the UI, we just don't mean the chat interface that you're probably used to use by now. We also mean voice. We also be experiences that are going through the UI but are AI infused. We mean the whole UI. The second transition is going from traditional business process flows or RPA or business process management type capabilities into agentic and autonomous agentic experience. So what this will be combining the best of RPA, BPM, et cetera, with the magic and the creativity of GenAI to be able to create much more nimble processes that can more effectively adapt and more effectively can take human input. And the last paradigm shift is going from workers have data that they can use, right, and they get to navigate, to workers have knowledge, right? How can Copilot and AI Shift give you knowledge? How can you just query that tailored manual, that tailored instructions that you need to fix your asset versus having to search through multiple places, et cetera. And as I was saying, we're finding very clear signal on our research that the front-end workers are really ready for this digital transformation with GenAI. And I got here 3 key data points that back that data. The first one is training and skilling gap. So usually, in the traditional digital transformation, somebody builds a new app, and when you pilot it with a few users, and then it gets some acceptance, and then it gets deployed, et cetera. Well, in the case of front-end applications, more than half of that audience report that when they get the new apps, they just learn on the fly. They gave it to them in production. Here's your mobile app. Thank you so much for coming. And if you've been involved in a few transformations, you kind of know the probabilistic outcome of what's going to happen if you put a completely new mobile app and expect everybody to be super happy and stoked about it, right? So big opportunity for GenAI to make interfaces simpler so they can actually learn on the fly much faster if that's actually the way they're going to do it. The second point is 63% of the front-end workers actually struggle with menial and repetitive tasks. Completing paperwork, completing customer reports, doing manual schedule work, clicking, et cetera, et cetera. Like, that's an incredible productivity gain that we can drive with Copilot, and we'll see how we're doing at Microsoft. And the third point is information search. An overwhelming majority of the workers also believe that AI will help them the most in finding the right point of information at the right time. Again, manuals, who to call when you need for assistance. It's funny, like, when I talk for my work, I used to talk to front-end workers all the time. And oftentimes, I ask them, okay, when you have a problem, how do you know who you need to call? And they're like, oh, I just have a group of buddies that I just call them, and they pick up the phone. And it's like, well, usually workers love that idea, but managers don't like it as much because maybe the buddy is doing another work order, et cetera. So what if Copilot could actually tell you exactly who you should call based on all the information is exactly what you're seeing, right? So those are the kind of things beyond the traditional manual creation, et cetera. So all these trends and stats are really shaping a different way to think about future front-end operations. It's a future where the worker is able to interact with Copilot as UI, whether it's voice, whether it's text, whether it's fully native as part of that user experience. Where agents run autonomously and communicate with the workers when the time is right, and being able to get over the latencies and clanging hands-off. And where knowledge is really dispersed and ready to use, regardless of the context, and is extremely curated to that particular worker, whether it's a novice, whether it's an expert, et cetera. And at Microsoft, we're pushing really hard to make sure we fulfill this vision of future front-end operations. Our mission is to digitalize the front-end workforce by providing the #1 AI tool to manage, schedule, and perform the work. And we're constantly working with partners and customers to be able to fulfill that vision. And it's not a matter of the vision, but it's also where are we supporting that vision. More and more, we hear the needs from the workers to really meet them where they are. So traditionally, this has been mostly on the web, whether you're using your field service app or you're using your mobile app and you need offline, et cetera. But more and more, we're also hearing the need for the front-end workers and managers to meet them at their system of engagement, to meet them on Teams, to allow to share a work order on Teams, to allow to invoke Copilot on Outlook, to allow to be able to escalate with an action with Copilot between teams, et cetera. To really immerse it, that's definitely one of the huge unlockers of next level of usage, right? Meet them where they are versus actually force them to come to the system of record application. So today, you've seen the vision, the mission, the data that shows it. Today, I'm really, really happy to talk to you about some new capabilities in line with this vision, bringing Gen AI and agents into the mix to really boost the productivity of the frontline workforce. So let's just talk about a couple of ones. The first one is scheduling operations agents. We announced this at the Satya AI Tour in London back in October. And this is essentially our new way to think about scheduling optimization with both the best of the optimization algorithms joined together with Copilot. So how do we leverage the strength of LLM to make scheduling optimizations much easier to understand, much easier to diagnose, much easier to understand what's going on, but keeping the robustness of the math capabilities of scheduling optimization? And we're debuting with the first capability called Scheduling Operations Agent that allows dispatchers in a no configuration needed way to be able to use Copilot to just optimize a technician's schedule. But of course, this is only the beginning. And the second big Copilot-based capability that we want to disclose today, it's our Inspections Builder. So if you or your customers have been working on this digital transformation, you're probably working with PDFs, documentations that are likely inspections, manuals, et cetera. So the Inspection Builder allows you to import into field service PDF-based or Word documents and turn them automatically into a field service inspection template that you can just assign to work order. But rather than me boring you with like 1,000 different slides talking about these capabilities, it's always much better if we actually show it end-to-end in a demo. So to do that, I'd like to bring my colleague Ronit on stage to help us with that. Ronit?
Hi, Hector. Hi. Hi, everybody. It's great to be on stage with all of you. You know, Hector, we have amazing AI tools to share today.
Oh, I know. I'm so excited.
I know. And I've recorded this, so I'll go well. I'm going to start with our first one. And I'm going to show you how generative AI, together with scheduling optimization algorithm, can come to the aid of our dispatchers. So are you ready?
I'm so ready.
OK, let's do this. So starting with scheduling optimization agent, what you're going to see is how Contoso, an HVAC manufacturing company, is going to use our tools. And in this scenario, what I'm going to be is the dispatcher at Contoso. I'm in the middle of the day. What you are seeing now is field service. I'm actually editing product in a work order. When suddenly Cameron, one of my technicians, come and say, hey, I'm at my 1:30 booking. The customer was not ready for me. They didn't clear the floor. I cannot do my job. That's something common you probably encounter. So what he shared is, I'm now available for the rest of my afternoon, and so I need more job to be done, and I also want to finish the day half an hour early.
Yeah, and this not only happens at Contoso, actually happens all the time. These are real use cases where, yes, you might have a fully optimized schedule. Yes, everything might be on paper great. And all of a sudden, they get to decide, and boom, there's nothing they can do. So they call the dispatchers, like, give me more jobs. And sometimes they also ask for a different type of shift.
Completely. And what I need to do at the time is go to the scheduling board, cancel the booking, then find all the work that is relevant to where my technician, Cameron in this case, is. So it's a lot of work that the agent now can solve in minutes. So are you ready?
Can you show us how?
Yes, of course.
Awesome.
OK. So what I'll show you is I'm going to type and ask Copilot for schedule a new schedule for Cameron Evans. And while Copilot is doing that, what actually happened behind the scene is that an LLM model picks it up and understands that this is a scheduling topic, and it operates the agent. The agent enables us now to pick different settings. So we can actually go and decide what would be our scheduling goal, whether we would like to optimize for front-load high-priority work, which means that we have something really important to accomplish now, or just maximize utilization and hence get Cameron afternoon really well set. We also can pick for the time range. So for this one, we have still the end of the day, so that's what we're going to pick. And then lastly, Cameron, my technician, was very well set to do maintenance job. So I'm going to ask the agent to look at those group of requirements that are related to maintenance. And when I'm ready, I can actually activate the agent.
So what we're doing here is actually bringing the best of the optimization algorithms together with LLM to make sure the problem is easier to understand and provide a much more natural interface to the optimization problem.
Completely. And you know what the agent will do now is take all those things we talked about, the time, where my technician is, the other requirement, what's their location, the travel time information, compute all of that and the setting that I put in the previous screen, and voila, this is the result. What we can see in the Gantt chart on top is what was the schedule of my technician Cameron before, and then the new schedule is proposed on the second line. You can see the two blue new bookings, which are related to maintenance, because that's what I've asked the agent to do. And the agent also charted a new route for my technician Cameron. So the blue line that you all are seeing is that new route, and the pink one was the previous route. So if I'm all set and ready, I can actually press apply, and that's what I'll get.
Great. So this allows you to solve the problems faster, right?
Yeah, of course. You just see. It was so quickly.
Amazing.
And the agent was so nice to actually put a message in the chat that it's done. So now, if you all recall, I was in the middle of editing a work order, editing product to that list, right? So I can actually go back in place to where I was.
That's amazing. And I have a couple thoughts here. The first of all, how we're trying to democratize in traditional Microsoft fashion, right? We're trying to democratize the very complex problem of scheduling optimization, bringing the power of Copilot to make it extremely easy to use. And then we also sometimes find organizations that are like, gosh, scheduling optimization, that's a really hard problem. It requires a lot of training, et cetera. So what we're doing is we're also making sure it's so much easier. It's fully embedded. You don't even need to use the schedule board. You haven't done anything. You just call your agent, see what you can do, and the agent, you'll be able to have a conversation with it.
Yeah, and the nice part about this one for all of you who want to try it out is the fact that I'm just taking one technician, one schedule, and I'm actually asking the agent to do that. So you can actually start with that. It's an easy start.
Okay, so Ronit, we talked about dispatchers, but this is not a field service session if you're not empowering the managers and the technicians, right?
Of course, I want to give for the managers as well.
Okay.
So for this one, I want to show you how our agent, our Copilot, actually can help manager with their digital transformation. And what I'll be in this one, a service manager in our Contoso HVAC company. And now I have a piles of inspection on my table. It's either PDF files or in paper, both of those together. And what I really want to do is get those inspections to the hands of my technicians. That's what I want to do. But in the life that you're all used to, I would need to go to field service. I would need to create those digital forms, and that takes a lot of time.
Yeah, or you might have to do a transformation process, et cetera, maintaining that. I actually spoke to a customer once that told me they had 40,000 different inspection templates across the organization. So when you have that type of scale and you've been doing pen and paper for the last 30, 40 years, it's kind of like a big deal to digitally transform yourself.
Hey, it's a lot of work, and AI can help you in that. Do you want to see it?
Oh, I'd love to.
Okay. So I'm getting into our field service to inspection template list, and I'm asking to generate a form with Copilot. The only thing I need to select is a PDF file, which contained my previous form, right? So on the right side, what you see is the actual PDF file that I had in the past, and on the left is the digital form. You can see that all the fields are there. If this was a text, customer name, whatever field, I have it. Date pickers are there when I had a date field. You can see that the Copilot identified the questions. So I have multiple choice with radio button and checkbox, and everything I had in that original form is there. And it took less than a minute to do. And when I want to edit, I can do that as well in the designer. Now I'm ready, and I'm saving it. And once it is saved, it's part of my templates. And I can easily take this and edit to my work orders.
So Copilot was not only able to actually interpret that this was an inspection, of course, but it was also smart enough to understand this is a date, This is the checkbox, this radio button, text format, etc. So the actual right data type is stored in Dataverse as well, not only just like the random thing that you don't know what to do with it after that, or massively edit later.
No, it's completely, I took a PDF or a paper and I transitioned that to a digital form. And then from that, all the information, and we'll see that in a second, would get into your organizational Dataverse.
Okay, now I'm really excited about how the technician is going to see this.
I'm going to show you that as well,
Awesome.
just because you asked nicely.
Of course.
So let me open our mobile app and activate our field service. And in our field service, we go to the work order and navigate to our form. And what you can see that our inspection, the form we just worked on, is just there waiting for Cameron, the technician, who had his second work for the day. All the questions, the inspection questions are ready to be filled. And so Cameron can easily go through his mobile device and update those questions as they can do to any digital form. And once that data is in, it's getting into your organizational Dataverse. So data is there and ready to use.
Okay, so essentially in minutes, you've gone from paper-based PDFs to digital inspection associated to a work order, push it to the technician. Technician was able to fit it up in a mobile-first way and put it back. So did you digitalize yourself in 3 minutes?
Of course, you didn't see me work. I was working very hard on this
Amazing.
one.
And well, we know we have a lot of customers lined up. I want to make sure, so this is going to come on public preview at the end of the year, and the scheduling optimization agent is right now on private preview, and will come on public preview early next year as well. Is that right?
Yeah, it's ready soon.
Well,
soon
thank
to
you
become.
so much, Renee. This has been fantastic. Appreciate your
you.
help. What a time to be alive, right? Who would have told us that we'll be able to do this so fast in this amazing frontline transformation world? So I had a couple of other things that I want to highlight as well in terms of capabilities that are generally available today in Dynamics Field Service with Copilot. The first one is the work order summarization that has been widely used across the board to build things like customer reports, technician insights, etc. The second one is the ability to configure work order summaries, make that work order summary much more tailored to your needs. And the third one is big enhancements to our sidecar application for Copilot inside of Field Service. So let's just deep dive on them a little bit. Oh, excuse me. So the summarize of the work order in Outlook was the very first feature that we launched in Copilot more than a year ago, and it's been definitely tried by hundreds of customers. It's coming to GA in Outlook in January. And it's also coming to GA on the new mobile app as well. So technicians will be able to do this as well in a very friendly way, as well as for the managers on the mobile app as well. But my favorite thing about the work order summary is not as much the fact that it exists, but we've created a very simple editor inside Field Service that truly allows to build whatever summary you want. You get to pick your entities, you get to pick your style, you get to pick how lengthy or shorter you want to do, and you'll see that a lot of our customers are actually using this feature because it's very capable in things like customer reports, and we're going to learn with Siemens about that as well. So this will also be generally available on January, and we're very excited for it. And last but definitely not least, we've added better prompts and better UX and faster response to our sidecar interface for Copilot in Field Service. And these are just a few highlights because this session is only 45 minutes, but over the last few months, we've shipped dozens of new features in Field Service that you can check on the release note website, of course. So on this journey, right, over the last few months, we've had hundreds of customers trying Copilot in Field Service, our new capabilities. In fact, it's the fastest adopted feature in the history of the product, which is super exciting. But the number one question I always got when I'm in customers' conversation, like, gosh, Hector, can you talk about a customer who's going through this journey? Can you actually walk us through the good, the bad, and the ugly? Because, of course, I'm sure not everything is going to be rosy. There's a lot of challenges. It's a very new transformation. And so we thought, what better place than Ignite to be able to hear from one of our largest and better partners over the last few years, which is Siemens Smart Infrastructure. So it is my pleasure to welcome on stage today Brad Haverly, Senior Vice President of Siemens Smart Infrastructure Services, to tell us about the story. Hey, Brad.
Hey, Hector,
How
good
are
to see
you?
you. How you doing? How are
Thank you
you?
for having us.
Good.
Let's have a seat
Well,
here.
yeah, great.
Brad, thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing your story. I think it's been a phenomenal journey. Before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about your division in Siemens Smart Infrastructure, and your role specifically on the division?
Yeah, sure. First, just how many people know Siemens in the audience, just the context of that? So fair amount. Well, that's good. That means our marketing team's doing a good job. First, just on Siemens, 2 seconds on Siemens is we're a technology company, 100-plus-year-old technology company that actually started with a communications company for building a translator that when it was sent over the wire underneath the ocean,
Wow.
and it would convert one message to another. It was just like text message, and that's how the company actually started years ago, and always had a technology foundation to it. So for me, and we're 4 major businesses. We have a healthcare business. We have a digital industries, which operates factories and software that builds products. If you're building a plane or some car, you're going to use most likely using our software to do that. We also have a mobility, so if you're doing a high-speed train, you do that. And our business is smart infrastructure, so we make infrastructure to run buildings and industry. It's electrical infrastructure to fire alarm, security infrastructure to building automation, which runs buildings. So that's the area I'm involved in. And just the last thing, our motto is making the real and digital real. So combine the digital and real of the technology and make it something real for the marketplace. So
That's fast. And what's your role?
So my role is I head up for our smart infrastructure division, our service business globally. So we're about 20 countries, approximately 10,000 plus technicians, and a whole series of people in our digital service center that execute for our customers every single day.
That's fascinating. Can you give us a couple examples of customers? How is the day-to-day of a customer that's using your technology?
Yeah, for us, we're in most industries, and I'll just give you a couple quick things in like healthcare, for example, or if you go to universities, you go to pharma or data center, everyone uses our infrastructure to be able to operate their buildings or their plants or whatever. And the example for healthcare, and it's applying, we make products, we install products, and then we service products, and we service our competitor products too. So that's kind of how we operate. But the key on all those aspects is they're very specific applications for customers. That's really the difference. So if you go to healthcare, what they care about is patient satisfaction, but also compliance and uptime, because if you're at an operating room, if it goes down, it's problematic. If the conditions in that room aren't perfect to the operation conditions, it can be risky to the patient, and you could have lots of problems. If you go into a pharmaceutical customers, they want uptime, but they also have to be in very specific conditions, and they have to validate that and report that to the FDA, so they have to have requirements met. You go into a university, you think of a university, many of you probably have kids in universities, you think of safety of the university for the kids, is it a safe environment for them? But also, people don't know is that's one of the biggest R&D, specifically in the US R&D places in the world. So if you're in Harvard and you have a lab going for an experiment on some cancer, it's a 10-year experiment. If the conditions go wrong in that place or something happens, that experiment could be completely null and void, 10 years worth of effort. So that conditions are really critical. So every industry is a little bit different, but that's where we have to kind of modify our stuff.
So with my product manager hat, what I see is multiple requirements, multiple conditions, multiple global things that you need to attend to, right? So that's fascinating. Tell me in the beginning, you've been with us on this journey for about 6-7 years. Yep. What drove initially your move to the cloud with Dynamics and with Microsoft?
Yeah, a couple things. Our move to make the decision to put the infrastructure in is we really are non-standardized. If you went around the world in our 20 countries we're in, we had different infrastructures, different way of delivering, but we were in a process to transform our service business to a digital service business. Traditionally it was break and fix and preventative maintenance services and on-site local people. We're trying to digitize that, which is doing reactive services remote, but also using analytics to run the infrastructure of those buildings and to be proactive with what we do with our machines to be able to operate them in a different way than it's operated in the future. To do that, we had to get standardization. So that's when we embarked on that journey, because we said we need to put the infrastructure we need to do to change the way we operate, and we have to do that in a standard ways around us. So that was the start of why we made that decision. And you guys were a great partner because you were a global partner. We could see where you guys were going, and it kind of was a good fit when the team did the evaluation, then that's what they chose 6 or 7 years ago. That's how it started.
That's great. And you know, has the promise been fulfilled? What's some of the outcomes that you've seen in this initial pre-Copilot days transformation?
Yeah, for us, it was first to just build standardization, have the same infrastructure to be able to go deliver. That was the first starting point. And that's been a big journey for us over time. But now what we're seeing is now not only our original productivity we planned, but with Copilot, we're seeing incredible opportunities to do things in a much more efficient way than we're currently doing with our field services technicians, but also even using that same type of infrastructure for the data that's coming out of the infrastructure and our customers and our systems to be able to make some decisions. So a combination of both.
So what I'm hearing you saying is like you achieve more business and you achieve more customer satisfaction, but then next phase was like, gosh, I feel like we could do something with this generative AI Copilot that everybody's talking about. So walk us through how our interaction about the Copilot scenario for Siemens started, because I think it was a really good time for both companies.
Yeah, it was, and I'm sorry I go back to that. As when we did digital transformation, I think that's what he's getting at, is to do that is we wanted to operate more efficient for our customers, provide a better service, higher satisfaction, and we do it more efficient, win-win for both of them. That's the transformation we want. But Copilot, the discussion was interesting. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but 18 months ago, I never heard of generative AI. We've been using AI, but machine learning AI for years, but not generative. So that was a new concept that came up, and we got on that, and I was like, wow, this is powerful. And it was great that you guys are really a leading company in that stuff. So it was a discussion with their leadership. Hector was there with his boss, and we were having a discussion. They're like, all right, they were kind of figuring out, all right, what do I want to get going? So they had a couple concepts, a really good concept. We're like, we're all in. But we said, here's a problem, and just a little different problem, because they were really looking at the call handling capabilities and how you optimize, which is good. But in our business, we're not as much reactive as we are proactive, a standpoint. We have a huge amount of contracts that we have scheduled maintenance on there. So really, the big effort is actually when our technician finishes that job and we close out that work order, and how do we give that information that's powerful, that shows our customers specific KPIs. And I don't know about you guys, if you have field service technicians, they don't like to write things. This isn't why they went into this career. They went in it to fix things. And we have combination information. So we had this discussion, these guys, all right, we'll tackle that. And that's how it really came up. It says, how do we take that last experience, but turn it in a way that's efficient and really show value to our customer in a much more efficient way than we do.
Yeah, so the work order summaries capabilities that we just showed, like a couple of slides ago, together with the ability to create a custom summary, is the capabilities that Siemens are piloting now. And I thought it was fascinating because, you know, Brad was very like, I know exactly how much a work order costs. I know exactly how much I can save by just shaving 30 seconds of somebody typing. Right? So I thought it was a really good scenario. And you're piloting right now, right? You're starting to testing with real users.
Yes, real users.
How's that going?
It's early, but our initial feedback is good because we're testing it in New York and another city and having our technicians do that. And so the initial feedback is good. We're trying to hone it a little bit, so make sure there's like how they would say certain words and the phrases they would use, the right way to communicate for our customers. So we're tweaking that so it's just really crisp, exactly the message we want to give our customers. And I think we're honing that, and once we hone that and we feel 100% comfortable, then we're going to deploy that across the world very fast. So that's the objective.
And one thing I really like, oftentimes when you push new technology to the frontline space, by default, it's always like, they're not the most excited. So in this case, even though the capability we'll continue to refine together to tailor your needs, the response is really positive. It seems to be increasing the overall positive sentiment of the technician as well.
Yeah, I would say, because I heard you talking about it earlier, as a technician, you think about them, they want to do their job well. They want to satisfy that customer. That's the beauty of service people. Their mindset is to satisfy customers and really do a good job. But if they're in front of something and they can't solve it, that doesn't feel good to them, okay? And exactly what you said, we have call centers that they can call up and get help, specialty levels of that, but exactly, they also call their friends. And if they can solve that problem quick and efficient, they're going to feel better about their job, more efficient. So it's their nature of who they are. And so that's why I think they embrace it, and they embrace solving problems. And sometimes when we introduce technology, they see that as a risk. They don't seem to see this as a risk so far as we're trying to displace their jobs, and we're
so
not.
not everything is rosy always. What's some of the challenges they've seen, in implementing this Copilot journey?
Yeah, I'll tell you just practical challenges is to tune what you're trying to do, you need experts to really kind of tell you if this works and that. So that's the first thing, is getting their time to be able to do that effectively, okay? Because they're doing their job, and so you gotta really set up a structure to do that and get some non-utilized time is one of the things. To be able to learn quickly and apply that is hard because they're in a working mode to be able to do that. So we learn a little bit on how to structurally do that, and then have the feedback loop to you guys in an efficient way that we'll be able to do that. But so I think it's very practical. I'll tell you this, is I build a lot of technology. Told you we're a technology company, so we apply a lot of technology. This is the fastest moving thing I've ever seen in my career. And I think it's actually, as I was telling Hector earlier, I said, I don't think we have a clue what the capabilities of this technology is going to be. I think we're really just touching the basics on there, what I see, and I think it's going to transform a lot of way we do business. We just don't really realize what that is yet at this point in time.
I couldn't agree more. Do you have any final words of wisdom for somebody who might be on the verge of doing a similar journey like you?
Go for it, number one. I always believe in, my philosophy is don't try to protect your business. It's the worst thing you can do. Try to transform your business because someone else will do it for you. But always and probably the most important thing is what we've done is always have, first and foremost, a customer at your lens. So what does this mean to the customer, and how can you use this to effectively improve that experience for the customer, because that's how you win. And then secondary, which is critical, is your employees. Will they embrace it? Do they support it? Because otherwise, if they fight this, the resistance on that. So you got to bring your employees along with this journey. You got to communicate the why, the what. And I've done that with some stuff we haven't communicated that well. And they don't come along, and guess what? The customer sits there and goes, what do you think of this? And they blink, and it doesn't get done. So you got to have them at least say it's good to be able to go do that, because at least in our world, the customer, probably the most important thing they buy is actually, in a service world, is that person that's sitting in front of them, and they know them by name, and they believe in them, and you got to bring them along too. So that's probably some I learned.
Wow.
And last is
yeah.
Pick good partners. Microsoft's a huge partner. We also have other partners too that we build our technology on, and really, but pick them, but also listen to them, because there's learnings across the board, and it's really.
Yeah, I've always really appreciated the candidness of a relationship, and how, when things are great, we say it. When things are not great, we also say it as well. Brad, on behalf of Microsoft, I really want to thank you for your partnership and for taking the time to speaking to us about your experience.
And thank you, Hector.
Much.
Thanks.
Round of applause for Brad.
Thank
you so much. So I think nothing better than hear it directly from a customer, or one point of view, the kind of journey they've been in, and we're just so happy and honored to come with such a large organization deploying tens of thousands of users on field service. For me, the takeaways of the conversation with Brad has been the collaboration with Microsoft, and this is my open invitation. If you want to collaborate on a feature with us, we're here to help you. Second is this relentless passion for transformation in the face of adversity as well, resiliency in the face of changes. No digital transformation is easy. And then we've also briefly discussed some of the policy with Copilot Field Service, how to enable the workforce, what does it mean? Every country has very different rules, of course. It's not the same as rolling out in Europe, in the US, in Asia, et cetera. So yeah, I think overall, hopefully this has been a really good learning. So, in closing today, hopefully you've been able to understand what's Microsoft's vision for the frontline, what are some of the key research and trends that are guiding us, and how does this relate to the overall vision that Satya laid out this morning. Hopefully you've also been able to see some of the great capabilities in how we're bringing really revolutionary capabilities for field service in an end-to-end way. And also you've been able to see that this Copilot transformation is a reality with our customers, and thanks to the Siemens Smart Infrastructure journey, learn a little bit more what does it really mean in practicality. And to finish the session, I just have a couple of call to actions. Number one, keep exploring, keep learning about AI. This is only the beginning. And also, you can actually read the Siemens Smart Infrastructure use case online as well. We just published this story featuring Brad's story online, so you can read it here. And just as a closing thought, I encourage you to keep learning, keep having fun with technology, and keep helping your frontline workers because they'll definitely be appreciated. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the Ignite.